Hey everyone, this is Khara Brindle. Welcome back to the channel. New face on the channel today. I have a colleague of mine, Tom, with us, and we're going to talk about a tool in financial therapy realm. So this is very exciting. Tom, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Khara. Nice to be here. I'm actually not
Absolutely.
in South Africa. That's my background today. I'm in Medellin, Colombia. Uh, I have that background because I just on Tuesday finished a 14-week course with the Founders Institute, and so I still have that background. I have to figure out how to get rid of it, but I kind of like it.
I like it too. It's very
Yeah,
professional. All of us have envy and want to be there. It looks beautiful.
right, right.
So tell folks who've never met you before what you're all about, because I know they can see the Deep Data logo up here. You and I actually met at a Financial Therapy Association conference. You did a presentation on some things. So we've known each other for a couple of years, but what do you want this group of people to know about you?
Okay, well, I'm Canadian. I'm an analytical psychologist. That is to say, I'm a Jungian psychologist. I'm also a private investor, and I'm the founder of Deep Data. And I did my psychology doctorate in Zurich. I was there during the stock market crash of 2008. And that really impacted me and everyone else. And during the crash, I realized that emotion is not well understood. And so I thought, okay, this is cool. Can I find some sort of a Jungian tool that maybe would help the two communities? I think I've told you this before, Khara. The financial community and the Jungian community are both headquartered in Zurich, but they really are almost like oil and water. Uh,
Yeah,
so
they don't talk.
anyway, yeah, the seed of an idea slowly grew into deep data, and that's where I'm coming from.
Amazing. So Deep Data, when you and I first connected, had kind of two different pieces that were being built and refined. One was around word association and some of the risk averse versus openness to risk. And then there was another part for financial planners. Do you want to talk about the two tools and how they're looking right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's basically done, although it can always be improved and it can always be better. What we're doing right now is my programmers are building in a feedback at the end of the I'll call it assessment. It's not really a test. And people who take the assessment are asked 5 or 6 questions, and we value feedback. It's always useful to make it better. But I
Mhm.
don't think there have been any major changes since we spoke, maybe a few. The 6 things that show up on the dashboard of a financial planner, we have the baseline conscious risk tolerance, which everybody has, and that's to excuse my French, cover your ass with compliance. Um, but then deep data has we measure your unconscious risk tolerance. And sometimes that doesn't change. Sometimes it goes up or down, even dramatically from what your conscious risk tolerance is. And that's
Ooh,
important to know because you want to design appropriate asset allocations that take into account how you'll react to a market downturn, and also how you'll react to an emotional event, be it, a death or divorce or something of that sort. And the reason
right.
why it's useful to financial planners, apart from, structuring a better asset allocation model, is that it enables them to establish communication early with their clients, before something happens, because there's no time if you wait until something happens. And I think the other point is that it's financial planners are trained to work with reason and logic and to use reason and logic if there's a downturn or something of that sort. But clients, that's not the way they look at risk. They feel it emotionally, and so
That's right.
our tool enables the planner to have insight and awareness and hopefully empathy into doing that.
Beautiful. Well, of course, the financial therapists in my community are like, yes, let's do all things around emotion.
Right.
running joke is money is 90% emotion, 10% logic. So I feel like you've like tapped into that with this whole let's have a conversation ahead of time before something happens, be proactive versus reactive. And I imagine the clients appreciate that as well with their financial planners.
Yeah, I think it's even more than 90%. I mean, Carl Jung talked about a little cork of consciousness floating on the
Mm.
sea, right? Um, Consciousness is
Powerful image.
important, but the unconscious people are usually not aware of it, and 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 they'll never be fully aware of it. But the more aware of it they are, the better. And so, just to follow up on that dashboard that we measure the shift between conscious and unconscious. We measure the awareness that clients have, of what they're like under pressure. Um,
Mm.
we measure what we call emotional variability or volatility, which is an important thing to know about the clients as well. And the last indicator, which I'm sure we didn't have when you took the assessment, is what we call the financial or business compatibility index. And that
Ooh.
measures with a couple how much they're on the same page in terms of how they think about risk and money. And it's useful not only for the couple themselves, but also perhaps in a match with a financial planner to make sure that everybody's
Yes.
understanding each other. And so in the annual meetings or semi-annual meetings or whatever meetings they have, they can look over these and talk about them. And it's something in between them that I think is, an excellent tool.
Oh, I love that. I mean, when you said couples, I'm like, yes, because they usually aren't quite on the same page. So it gives a visual and a name to something that they're feeling. And then it sounds like some matchmaking between the client and the financial professional of like, are we aligned? Are our values similar? Which of course resonates with me as a financial therapist. So cool. I love that you added that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So you and I talked offline right before we hit record about the value of kind of the deeper dive into the process, the interpretation of the results. So we looked at some word association when I was one of your testers of the tool. What
Yeah.
can you tell our audience about word association and how that is informing the data?
Okay. Well, the first thing I would say is that the conventional tests that are used are self-reporting tests, which means,
Mhm.
strongly agree, agree, somewhat in the middle, strongly disagree, etc. The problem with those kinds of tests, number one, they're easy to fudge or fake. So if a client wants to have a certain kind of retirement goal and they look and see a chart, okay, that's how I get there. And they say, okay, my conscious risk tolerance is really high. I'm happy with that. But can they sleep at night? Um, you
Mm.
know, and so the other thing is my programmers, they tried to, as all programmers do, figure out a way to cheat on the deep data test,
Yeah.
and they could not do it. It's not that sort of a format. The word association and the other indicators that we have, you can't fight it. You can't
Mm.
disguise it. You can't repress it. It's going to show up one way or the other, and that's not something to be afraid of. I mean, I think that somebody might say, well, what about if I find out something about myself that I don't want to know or that I don't like?
Mm.
And my answer to that is, well, maybe, but wouldn't you want to know? I mean, don't you want to know what you like?
You would
And
think. Yeah.
you would think. And I guess there are people who don't. And maybe that's, in a sense, the way a gentle, empathic approach. The back end has some pretty powerful data. So if the financial planner is not fully comfortable using the back end data or doesn't know how to use it, I think that might be an opportunity for a financial therapist to step in and assist because they're trained to know how to work with emotional aspects. And maybe the planners aren't. I
Mhm.
guess the last thing I would say about it is that word association as a tool has been adopted. You can find it in focus groups and so forth. And for me, the analogy is so if you have a nuclear submarine cruising along the surface of the sea and never using its full power to dive deep into the depths, For me, the word association in a very simplistic way, like it's used in focus groups, not using the full Jungian protocol, which is reasonably complex. There's a
Mm,
methodology there. You don't access anything more than superficial information that the submarine would see on the surface of the ocean. We want to go down and find out what's going on beneath the surface.
absolutely. All financial therapists are like, yes, sign me up to help with this because we also find value in going deeper, right? That the behaviors are actually informing emotions, which inform beliefs around money and things like that. So this is very in alignment with the financial therapist philosophy, at least from how
Right.
I was trained. So what's your vision for these tools when you think about how they're going to go from here, how they're going to scale and be reachable? What are your hopes for them?
Well, it's a 15 or 20-minute online exercise, so it can be done at home. The
Mm.
original word association technique of Jung, a therapist sat there with a stopwatch and sort of recording everything, so that was not scalable, right?
Yeah.
I think that the applications are manifold. I mean, as I said, I just did this 14-week course at with the Founders Institute. And a lot of mentors got really excited about it and said, could we use this for insurance? One of the fellow founders wanted to use it for dating, and we actually have deep data dating. We did that a long time ago. It can apply to H&R. We can identify innate talent. And I think the other thing is that, and I don't want to get too far afield with this, but diversity is important. And the original first generation, I think, was, gender diversity, racial diversity, age diversity. And the second generation was maybe cognitive thinking styles. And this is another generation potentially because it's emotional. And that's something that doesn't show up in a thinking style. So for team building, I think it could be a really exciting thing to do. But for the
Mm.
moment, Khara, and this is one of the things that they taught me in the founders course, even though you can do a lot of things with the tool, what I want to do is focus in on the financial planners and use it that way. And as you know, we both know Josh, so he's a strategic partner in Denver, and I have
Mhm.
another one in South Africa who's also a financial planner. And there's been a lot of interest around the world, but I want to focus in on the planning profession and maybe by extension financial therapists. And once we've done that, then it'll be time to look at other horizons.
Yes, I love that. Absolutely. I know that you're thinking about a certification program for the financial therapist who might interpret this data. Do you want to
Yeah.
say anything to our audience of financial therapists about that, of what might be coming down the pike?
Well, what I would say is that I would like to collaborate with Khara on that. I think I think a two a 2 day, perhaps maybe 3 or 4 hours a day training program,
Mhm.
possibly 3 days. What I have in my mind is to run through a series of tests or assessments and just look at it, sharing the screen. How does it work? How do we understand it? How do we use the tool? And I
Mhm.
think that would be the training part of the program. I'm assuming that financial therapists understand very well emotion and money already. It's a little
That's
bit
right.
of a different tool than, say, money archetypes or money scripts or those sorts of things, which I think for the
Mhm.
most part are still measured by self-reporting. And as I said,
Yeah.
this is not a self-reporting technique, so it's radically different. That's a big differentiator.
Yes, yes. And I like that about your tool because I have seen people fudge it or say, I want to look a certain way to my partner or to this professional in front of me. So, of course, as a financial therapist, I'm looking at those layers of like, let's peel it back, let's get to the root of the problem, which is why I'm so interested in your tool. So, for folks watching, obviously, we're getting them excited about the possibilities of this tool. Financial planners are the focus first, financial therapists kind of on the outskirts, supporting the emotional processing and the enrichment of the interpretation of the data. Where can people find more about deep data if they want to check it out or try out the tool themselves?
Can I just say one more thing before we go to
Yes,
that?
of course.
Um, I think that for the most part, um, let's say American business in general and the financial profession in particular
Hmm.
are very focused on logic and reason and what I would call logos. It's the masculine principle. And I think
Hmm.
that what we want to try and do is incorporate eros or the feminine principle, emotion. And I don't say that's absolutely, masculine or feminine because there's talk about that. We all have both of us inside. But I
That's
think
right.
it's also a tool for um, let's say in a partner, um, a male and female going in to see a financial planner, and it's a tool for one of the partners, be it the man or the woman, who is not that active, to feel heard and to have a chance to, not be ashamed of maybe having a different point of view. And I think that's very useful as well. I just wanted to mention that. I
Beautiful.
think there's a hyper rational bias in finance. And as you pointed out, 90 or 95% really is emotion driven. So that hyper rational bias is not absolutely appropriate, but it's still thought of as, the way to go. As
Yeah.
far as getting in touch, I don't know, were you going to play that video at some point? There is something, there's a CTA at the end of it.
Yeah, I
I
can link it below this video so they can
Yeah,
grab
you could
the
link it,
walkthrough.
and
Hmm.
the other thing is that Josh, my partner in the States, we're just in the process of launching. We're going to set up a landing page in the United States, and that'll be done shortly. So let me advise you when that's done, and then maybe you can attach it in some way, and people can get in touch. And I would love to hear from financial therapists as well as financial planners if there's any on the channel.
Absolutely. Yes, I'll make sure to put your contact info below the video, and then we'll link that other video that's an intro to the tool itself, Deep Data.
Mhm.
And yeah, we can keep people informed of the progress and how they can get involved. It sounds like that's coming down the line here that people might want to be more test drivers for the tool and or be part of that certification program when it's ready.
Yep. Well, that's great. And I look
Awesome.
forward to collaborating with you in the near future. Mhm.
Yes, you know me, I love projects. So viewers, stay tuned for more videos. But Tom, thank you so much for sharing this tool with us today. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Khara. Same.